Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I appreciate you joining me today. One of my previous companies had a core value of be easy to do business with. I have learned to take this and flip it on its head to be much more of an employee focused core value of be easy to work with. And so, what does that mean? It might mean things around being humble. It might mean taking ownership, being resourceful, being altruistic, being based in reality, amongst a few different other things. So, we're going to cover a wide variety of topics here, what be easy to work with means, and how this can impact your career. But before we dive in real quick, I want to remind you that every Friday I do a live free Q&A webinar where you are open to ask me anything and everything around career coaching and progression. So hit that link below, sign up, and join me every Friday. If you maybe have a particular question or need me to deep dive with you on a particular area that's very, very just small in scope, make sure you connect me as well. That is also linked below. And if you're maybe actually looking for a coach to really work with long term and take your career to the next level over and over and over again, start with my quiz that is linked down below as well to work one on one together. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. What does be easy to work with mean? It means that you are not putting up barriers unnecessarily. People, when they think about working with you, it's not a negative connotation. They're not dreading it, but they're actually excited, and that you make them a better professional every time they work with you, and they make you a better professional every single time. It's a two-way street. That is what being easy to work with means. In the frame of my previous organization, it was always, how do we make sure that there's less clicks on the screen? How do we make sure that the way people pay us and give us money, whether it's vendors and partners or it's actual customers, is easy and seamless? How do we make sure that we are ahead of their communications before they even realize that, oh, I need to follow up on this thing, but we're doing it proactively? It's just being easy to work with and do business with, and you're reducing the friction. That is what this means at its core. So, got a couple different things that are really the high level traits and kind of examples of what these traits mean that I'd like to dive in with you. So, first one is being calm in the storm. So, what this actually means is maintaining clarity under pressure, that you are steady when others are in chaos, that you are actually going to make better decisions when you're in that crisis mode, and then you become more focused when things get rough. And so, I work in an industry, for instance, of technology to where typically things are either smooth sailing or on fire. And so very quickly, I learned to maintain my composure under certain circumstances. I have even cost companies multiple seven figures in a single day because of mistakes that I or my team have made. And so when there are things that are going on, for instance, I'll give you one example, that myself and my counterpart, we actually took down a huge chunk, I won't say the organization, but of a retail website. And literally our department got a call directly from the CEO. I was the one that happened to answer the call. And I really couldn't deal with him at the moment. I instead had to figure out how to stem the bleeding and move forward. So when he asked what was going on and why they were losing money, I had to tell him, look, I cannot explain to you the issue right now. I need to stop the bleeding. I will give you a call back when it is done and let you know what happened and how we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And he said, I appreciate it. Click, done. Me and my counterpart got things up and running in a few hours. And then I gave him a call back and I said, here's what happened. Here was our actual internal mistake, what we didn't do. Here's how we've changed our documentation and our checks and balances and our processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. And so this was a situation to where I luckily haven't met anyone else who has cost a company more money in a single incident than that. But it was really, really eye opening and just let me know that it does not matter how bad it gets to just maintain composure. And at the end of that call with that CEO, he thanked me for just being honest and genuine and saying, look, it was my mistake. Here's what I did. And here's how we make sure that it's not going to happen again. And it was a 5-minute phone call with him because he was like, you already answered all of my questions. And, I wasn't frazzled. Neither was my counterpart. I can't, neglect his credit in this entire equation. Again, we were both calm and we both look back on this, and it was a huge, huge turning point in our career and even in that company, because then the company leadership actually came to us and said, hey, how are you guys our least experienced team, but actually one of the higher performing ones? And this was one of those things that came up, was just that we are calm in the storm. Even when things are going awry, we still make better decisions and we become more focused, like when it's getting rough. Okay, so what is the next trait we want to talk about here? being relentlessly resourceful. And so I've heard this phrased as, it never stops at it can't be done, or always find a way to say yes. You treat obstacles as puzzles to solve. There's a lot of different ways to kind of frame this, but it's essentially that you are somebody who can always either make sure that things get across the finish line, that a particular problem is solved, or that you can point people in the direction to do so. And so you are essentially just really adept at clearing roadblocks, making sure that paths are able to move forward, and that you just figure out the alternatives and different ways around particular problems and issues. And even if it's not necessarily within your direct expertise. So I have been described as, being a great think tank. And I really think that's, kind of the best analogy that I have here as well is people come to me with a variety of problems. Again, it's actually what led to me being a career coach is, people come to me with a variety of professional situations. I will be the first to admit when I don't know and I can't help. But if there is a way where together we can tag team it, then it's always going to be, yes, let's sit down, let's figure this out, let's do our research and let's dive in. Now, the biggest thing to balance with this one when it comes to your career, I'll be fully honest, is also protecting your time. So you need to be relentlessly resourceful, but without it being a detriment to you, again, actually moving things forward, right? So you have your core set of job responsibilities that you are hired and paid to do. And so if you are trying to go so far outside that scope that you are neglecting your base responsibilities, the core function of why you are at a particular organization, that is not going to be good. And that's actually going to hurt you in the long run. So you need to balance this with making sure, okay, look, all of my boxes are checked. Everything that needs to be moving forward is moving forward. Then outside of that, this is where I am looking for the opportunities. I'm finding creative paths forward, making sure that I can clear roadblocks for other initiatives and these sorts of things. So knowing that you are just somebody who is dependable in this regard of finding a way, this will take you to the next level so many times over and over and over again. Okay. Third one that I actually hinted at in the previous one. So being humble. And this is one that expresses itself in a professional way in a variety of ways. This isn't just necessarily stopping at going, hey, I don't know this, so I'm maybe not the best person. Or we don't have the answer. I'm not going to be egotistical and be like, yep, my bravado is the one that you have to listen to. But we're actually going to seek the truth together. But one of the key things that's very underrated about being humble is also sharing credit generously. And this is going to be something that mostly is going to show itself when you get into your first leadership role. So whether that's supervisor, manager, whatever it might be in that realm, and only continues as you grow up or go up the ladder. Sorry. But making sure that the people that actually did the work get the credit. You as the leader, your credit and success is dependent upon the people that report to you. And so by you actually showing that they are getting it done and you giving them the credit, right, that is actually showing that you are a successful leader, that you are able to provide the environment and provide the people what they need to continuously move things forward. So that's the thing, is you as a leader, your success is less based on your actions directly, and it's more indirectly the actions that you're taking are facilitating the people who are doing the things to continuously move them forward. So making sure you give that credit generously where it is and highlight them and uplift those people so that when it comes time for their reviews and their compensation or their promotions, that the opportunity is actually there. And again, this does still encompass being humble, the aspect of simply always valuing the truth over your ego, or, well, this is what's been successful for the last 5 years. This is how we're going to do it. Scratch that. Nothing infuriates me more as an employee than, well, that's how we've done it, so that's how we're going to continue to do it. That is not a reason to keep doing things, right? So have the humility to say, yes, there might be a better way. I'm not sure of the better way, but let's see if there is. Your worst case scenario is you do some investigation and realize you're already doing it the best way. So be humble. All right. Next one. Be actively curious. And this kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with humility. But what do I actually mean by this? I'm going to lose the credit for, I forget who said this, but that you need to approach life. It might have been Kevin Hart actually on a Joe Rogan podcast, of approach life with a childlike curiosity. That is really the key, is for those of you that either do have kids, I myself do not, or you have been around kids later in life, they are relentlessly curious, almost infuriatingly so, right? You're so frustrated sometimes by the amount of questions that they ask. But that is the reason it's infuriating, is because The questions aren't quality, they're quantity. So you as an adult should know how to ask great questions, right? Because you've been through that. Quantity maybe necessarily isn't the ideal. But at the same time, people are not necessarily going to be frustrated with your quantity of questions if they're high quantity and high quality, right? So that's the thing, is when you don't know something, if you are in a meeting and don't understand what people are talking about, ask. Ask those questions, right? Explore the different perspectives and personas on a call. Even be willing to volunteer yourself as the one that asks the dumb question or looks like an idiot because you're asking questions, to try to get other people to do the same. I've actually even done this in meetings with my leadership. Is I have told someone, either my right hand or whatever, that, hey, I'm going to ask a question because I've noticed around this topic, a lot of people don't ask questions, but I know they don't know it. Maybe because they're scared or whatever. So I'm going to break the ice and I'm going to ask a question. You're going to come in as somebody beneath me that you know the technical answer, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. And hopefully that will spark other people to say, hey, this is a safe space as well, right? So being actively curious is not just in the actions that you take of always trying to seek the different perspective or seeking to understand and asking questions, but it's also creating the environment for others to be actively curious. And that is going to be such a magic balance that you have there, so that if you can create a culture of active curiosity while fulfilling it yourself, money, money, money. Okay. What is the next one that we want to do here for being easy to work with? Assume good intentions. And this is one that is the hardest for people. I will even say is hard for myself at times, because it depends on, honestly, like the source of who I'm assuming good intent from. And not because I believe that any particular person has bad will, but you have to use your human learned instincts of always start with the good intentions, but then look at the track record and analyze things over time. And if there just becomes ill will or ill intent as a continuous outcome or a continuous train of thought by people, then it's fair to stop assuming good intent. But what does this actually mean? It means that you are going to default to trusting what is being done and the good intentions behind it. Because as a rule of thumb, everybody in a particular company should have the same goal, which is to grow the company, make the best decisions, make more revenue, make more profit, make customers happier, so on and so forth, right? That should be it. So just because there's somebody that's making a decision, from the top down, or is maybe doing a new initiative that you don't agree with, assume the good intent, right? And then even if you don't agree with it, first ask yourself why. And second, flip it into looking at it from their perspective. Well, why would they do this, right? Like, what is the potential positive in this outcome, right? And really, then when you've analyzed it from both sides, starting from the good intentions, then you can now go into a real honest dialogue where you're not just gut reaction, like, I think this is a terrible idea, why are we doing this, blah, blah, blah. But you could say, look, here's the pros that I see of this, and here's the cons that I see of this. Can we kind of talk about, is this the best decision? Is this the best idea, right? You're breaking down those barriers, you're reducing unnecessary friction, and you're letting them know that, hey, I've actually thought about this from all the different angles and from multiple different sides, and I'm still not understanding why. But start with assuming good intentions. And, coming from an example in my previous career is I had a counterpart of mine, a colleague. We were same position, same title, and they were not doing their work, just flat out. They were not doing it. We worked in shifts. And so every single time, like the next shift after him, one of the people would be making up for his work. And so part of me was like, well, is he not doing it, or is it just maybe not being documented? Right. So I went back, reverse engineered, looked at a bunch of stuff, and really found out that he just wasn't doing it. Not only actually was he not doing it, but he lied about it. So I will say I didn't necessarily assume good intent, especially not when you're lying about it, but I went back and I did not accuse first, but I said, hey, help me understand what is happening here, right? Is this maybe a lack of documentation? Was this a lack of understanding in the environment? Was this a lack of understanding in the project, right? I didn't just go in and make accusations, but instead I sought to understand and assume the good intention of maybe this is a human error. Unfortunately, this person stuck to their guns, said they did the work, and blah, blah, blah. And when I told them to prove it and show me, they couldn't. So that didn't lead to good things. But this is an example where, again, kind of mixing the assuming good intent and being calm in the storm, right? Like a storm was a brewing because I had all the evidence in my favor, but I still left room to make sure that there wasn't something I didn't look at. Okay, so that is a way of assuming good intent. Look at your perspective, look at their perspective, look at someone else's perspective, gather all the data, and still go back and ask questions before making accusations or before judging somebody's intent on something. All right, next up is ownership. So I'm actually going to point to the best resources on this are going to be twofold. One is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Phenomenal book. And then also The Dichotomy of Leadership. So it's follow-up book. I think both those things will give you a really, really good idea of what I'm talking about with ownership here. Now, this is going to be owning your mistakes, owning your successes. It's going to be owning everything that you do, every thought that you have, every action that you take, right? And so when it comes to owning your mistakes, make sure that you genuinely apologize for them. You're not deflecting, making sure that when you are also focusing on the solutions and not trying to blame people, right? Like if something happens, whether it was your mistake or someone else's mistake, great, let's solve it. If we need to go back to the drawing board and not necessarily have a blame game, but we need to say, hey, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. How do we do that? That type of conversation, not a blame conversation, but a productive one, then do that as well. If it is your mistake, take the ownership quickly, own up to it so that you can solve it and move forward as a company immediately. Again, you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's the perfect professional. And so this is all around owning your mistakes. Now, owning your successes as well. When it is you, embody that. When you did complete a project, you did, make increased customer satisfaction, whatever it might be, take ownership of both sides of those equations. And I'll actually give, again, two more stories, one on each side for me. I was working late at my previous position at one point. And we were having to do a technical solution to kind of just band-aid something because we had a project that was ongoing that was ultimately going to fix it. But in the middle of the project, we had an incident occur where, like I said, I just needed to kind of band-aid it to get it by for another couple weeks, and then the problem would be solved permanently. And I went through the wrong order of operations late at night at 1 a.m. And as soon as I realized that I took the entire system down, I immediately called my C-level and my direct manager. I called both of them. And I was like, hey, here's what happened. Here's the situation. Here's my path forward. Do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? Before I potentially make things worse, I want to make sure that I'm on the right path and that I have a second set of eyes. We reviewed, went through pros and cons. Boom. Guess what? That actually came out as a positive experience. That was something that actually helped me when it came time for my 6-month review with that organization, was that I owned up to my mistakes. I not only owned up to it, but I already had a solution in play. But I immediately, upon realizing what I did and what the issue was, I called my superiors and said, hey, here's where we're at. Here's what I did. Here's where I'm looking to go, correct or incorrect. And then on the other side, ownership of successes, right? I made sure to self-advocate for myself when at an organization I revamped our entire overall, ticketing and customer service management from the IT perspective, and really took ownership of that process, presented, trained, mentored the whole team, documented it, etc. And I made sure that it was known that I was the one that took ownership of that process. And ultimately, yes, the people in the department were the ones that fulfilled it, but that the redesign was mine and that it led to the success of boosting customer satisfaction to over 95%, that it reduced our ticket resolution time by half and our capacity by double, that we reduced our overall tickets down year over year by double-digit percentage every single year, right? All from simple process changes, right? So take ownership on both sides. That's what's going to separate you when it comes time to evaluating you as a professional. All right, next up for being easy to do business with, be a reliable closer. And really at the end of the day, what I'm meaning here is this comes off as very sales oriented, but I like this terminology for two reasons. One, what we're really trying to convey here is reliability. And the second one is accomplishment. So you could say reliable achiever, reliable completionist, reliable, whatever you want. But really what we're trying to say here is that you consistently make commitments that you fulfill and that you follow through on. I sum this up by every single person that I work with and work for, is especially people that are my direct reports. Say what you're going to do what you say. End of story. That is really the summation of what we're looking to do here. And this kind of goes back to the previous point of being relentlessly resourceful. where people can come to you to brainstorm. People know that they can come to you to reliably get stuff done, whether it's in scope or out of scope. Now, the thing here is this is also going to tie into that same concept, but like what I said before, where before you take on additional, you need to make sure that your core responsibilities of why you were hired and what your job are killing the game and are taken care of, no questions asked. So you need to be reliable in your core. Then as you take on, slowly ramp up and be reliable in that realm, and then push yourself to that maximum to figure out what your maximum threshold is where you can be a reliable closer or someone who delivers consistently over and over and over again. And the hidden objective here as well is when you do encounter challenges, you do encounter roadblocks, or there might be unforeseen things, communicate those proactively. Like as soon as your brain puts two and two together, or as soon as you identify the potential roadblock, immediately make that known to whoever you're working with or the stakeholder is of your potential issue. And so this really comes through in the fact of the way that I look at this is your success metric here is whether or not people are coming to you to solve particular issues, right? And so I will give an example where I came into an organization where the IT department was honestly just overloaded, lack of process, lack of consistency, and honestly, I think a lack of clarity in what the positions and roles and responsibilities were. And so when I came in, that was sort of my first objective, was to figure out what our processes were, figure out what the roles and responsibilities were, and also figure out what the expertises are and where people should be reliably placing their efforts to both maximize what they know, but also present the growth opportunity. And so what happened is I lined out, hey, here's our roles and responsibilities. And so this is my role and responsibility. And the thing is as I got more and more kind of ingrained into the other departments and working cross-functionally within the company, so whether it be with the software development team or whether it was with the finance team, marketing team, whatever it was, that people slowly started to come to me more and more and more and more and look to me to be that technology expert. And the beauty is most people are like, oh my gosh, that just sounds like a terrible workload perspective. The thing that was beautiful is when I said no, like I can't do this right now, or this is going to have to wait, because I was so consistently reliable at delivering, it also made the message of I can't do this right now, or this can't fit in, or so and so would be a better person to solve this. It made that come with weight. And so this is just something that's very having that clarity and understanding. I need to nail down my core functions. For my above and beyond, I need to be reliable in that. And I need to not take on too much and just consistently deliver quality results every single time. Again, say what you're going to do what you say. You can fulfill that and expand the scope of what that encompasses. Your career will explode tenfold in a variety of ways. Okay, being altruistic. This is one that is an interesting balance because you will have to gauge who you are being altruistic to, and are they taking advantage, or are they actually taking it for what it is? And so this is actually mentorship, leadership, coaching, all of it, really, at the end of the day, is you should be trying to help everyone else succeed around you. You notice that you have an expertise someone else doesn't, train them up, answer their questions, give them those opportunities, share the knowledge that you know freely. Do not hoard knowledge. Hoarding knowledge serves nobody. It literally doesn't even serve you. People think it's a selfish act. It's literally the worst act, even for yourself, because then who's to say that you actually know the best way to do something, right? When you bring more people in, then A, you get to the best solution, but B, the workload gets spread so that you can actually do more and achieve more. Right. So there's the whole, kind of abundance versus scarcity mindset. Right. And so the abundance mindset is feeling like there's endless possibilities. There's endless achievement and attainment for everybody. That's the mindset that we're going for here. Now, I will be the first to say, if you are coaching and helping, other people succeed and elevate and move up in their careers or whatever it might be, and they're just not appreciative, not giving back, they're not, also returning the favor, or they're not coaching other people, even if it's not directly to you, like they don't necessarily need to return the favor to you, but if they're not willing to also help others and kind of spread that out, then maybe that's not the right place to invest your resources. But again, assume the good intent with everybody, be altruistic in your knowledge sharing and uplifting and helping other people succeed, and just analyze the results, because you will more than likely almost always be known as that person. Like, people will recognize where the source of truth is coming from. But if you notice that people are not worth the investment, it's okay to stop investing. That is completely okay. So just be genuine and authentic in your altruism and giving back and helping other people succeed. And this is one of those things to where this was, I felt, my role as a team leader, senior on a team. I did not want to go into leadership directly for a very, very long time in my career. I stayed the right hand, the number two, etc. And the main reason being, and why I at least flourished in that position to such a huge degree, is because I felt I had two jobs: make everyone else on the team that I was the lead for look good, look awesome, and get to where they want to go. And on the flip side, my manager, who I was their right hand for, make them look good. So my entire job on both sides of me was to make people look good. And this led to both, I had managers get promoted to directors. I had supervisors get promoted to managers, and I also had multiple people come up from, help desk into administration, or administration into engineering, or engineering into leadership, right? Like, I helped so many people elevate their careers just by saying, hey, here's what I know and what I think, because I knew what I wanted to do. Now, later on, I did go into leadership, right? I've been in leadership now the last 7 years, and have been in the director level type of role now, and continuing to grow, and I'm aspiring to be that executive and C-level. And you guys are here for that journey. So as I learn things, I will continue to share it. That is me continuing to be the authentic, kind of genuine, altruistic person. That is my role here. Is if I'm not a successful coach or mentor, if you aren't achieving what I am able to achieve faster, stronger, more reliably than I did to get here on my own to begin with, right? Or with my mentors or whatever. So just be willing to give back, because it will be returned tenfold throughout your career. Okay. Next up, of being easy to work with, is being an active listener. And so this means when you are in a meeting, when you are in a one-on-one, that you give your full attention. You are not typing and messaging behind the scenes. You are not taking notes on something else. You are not trying to continue to work on an issue. You are focused on that person or that body of people for the particular meeting. Okay. Not only do you give them your attention, but you seek to understand them. Going back to some of our stuff earlier, right? Is you ask questions, you get clarity, you properly reflect back. I'm going to say steel man, what people say. And if you're not familiar with this concept, it's the opposite of a straw man, right? So where a straw man is that you just pull out some arbitrary concept that doesn't make sense. Steel man is that you actually reiterate, say, hey, here's what I heard you say. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Is that correct, or do I have a misunderstanding, right? You return the same arguments and statements back to someone in your own words to see if they are in agreement with what your understanding was, right? This is active listening. It's giving full attention. It's seeking to understand. It's asking clarifying questions, and it's reflecting back what they say in order to have a continuous conversation back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And again, this is what will make people really draw themselves to you. When it comes to coaching and mentoring, I think that this is probably the number one key, because here's the thing. If there's anything I've learned from both formally and informally coaching and mentoring and helping people get to where they want to go in their careers, if you don't listen to them, you don't understand their unique story and their unique goals and their unique aspirations, you're not going to be successful. Like, every person is not only biologically unique with a unique fingerprint and DNA scheme, but what they want to do in life also is. And so you need to listen and understand what people want and help them get there. And so this is the same if your company comes to you. Hey, we have a churn problem where we are losing 30% of our subscribers month over month over month. What do we do? Okay, here's the situation. Or you have a one-on-one where somebody's like, hey, here's where I'm at in my career and here's where I want to go. Here's my thoughts on how to get there. You agree? Do you disagree? Let's go from there, right? And then you ask clarifying questions and go. And so this is one where I'm not necessarily going to give, a bunch of different examples in my life. I think this is really just evidenced by all of the coaching and mentoring that I have done, whether formally or informally. And for those of you that are not engaging in active listening, give it a shot. You'll be shocked how well people respond. Okay. Next up is acting like an owner. And so this is one where especially front lines and early career people really, really struggle. Is put yourself in the ownership's shoes, right? You have people's financial livelihood at stake. You have debtors that you have at stake. You have customer satisfaction that you need to adhere to. You need to grow the business. You need to network. You need to find partners, right? Imagine that you are an owner and all of the risk and stress that you have taken on to make this happen, and put yourself in their shoes. And from your position, what can you do to make the owner more successful? So again, this is actually simply similar to being the altruistic side, right? Where I mentioned, how can I make my leader look good so that my leader gets promoted, then they promote me, and it just kind of creates this giant, leapfrog, or not leapfrog, but like, a springboard effect for everybody around us, right? So you want to put yourself in the ownership's shoes and care about the holistic success, right? Solve problems proactively, right? Think about the long-term impact, right? Take initiatives without being asked. And so, a couple different examples here, right? Is when I look at one of my last positions, we were a very interesting organization. We had a couple different business units. And the thing with my business unit on the IT side, we were the only one that only helped companies that were internal to our company umbrella. And to me, this was a huge opportunity, right? Because our other two pillars of business were actually selling and seeking to external customers products. And I'm like, we're leaving so much revenue on the table, right? If I'm the owner of the company, I actually want to have all three revenue streams or all three business units being profitable, right? Because if you have everything in the black, as opposed to maybe one in the black and one in the red and one in the black, so you got, two that are profitable, one that's not, we're able to make up for it. Why not make every single department, every single business unit, its own form of consulting and success to support customers? And so I realized this, went out of my way to not only true up the department's functions to free up the time to make this expansion, but also then built the business plan, did the market research, did competitive analysis, put together the full launch plan of this scenario, which ultimately led to, multiple leads coming in with potential lead generation, or potential revenue generation, right? And in all of those, we learned some stuff along the way around what not to do and what to do in that sales cycle, in those initial discussions with potential clients. But this was a way where, I was 3 rungs down from the ownership, but I was the one that realized, hey, if we free up X amount of capacity, we could actually turn that capacity into revenue generation, take that revenue, get more people to expand capacity, and just keep this now going. Like, we already had everything we needed up front. We just needed the business plan and the efficiency to make it happen with zero additional cap or OpEx expenditure, right? And so this was a great example that ultimately, led to a lot of recognition, a couple different promotions within that organization, and it was a massive success. And ultimately has led to, even outside of that company, future promotions and future success because of the initiatives and things I learned within that scenario. The last thing we're going to touch on here about being easy to work with is being based in reality. And this is one that I think most people struggle with just flat out, even in every aspect of their life, right? And this is what I mean by being reality based is you are okay with facing the facts, right? You maintain your intellectual honesty. You bring solutions to problems. You don't just complain about the problems, right? You deal with what is, not what should be, right? And so I'm going to steal a quote from Alex Hormozy here, which is, where you point the blame finger is where the power goes. And that's what this is, right? Just being able to look at reality and going, hey, we don't have the budget to buy this thing. So if we can't buy this particular tool, or we can't expand the department, how can we still accomplish growth from within without additional expenditure? Or, you know what? Like, this is a niche market that is only worth a $5 million, market year over year. Is that okay? And how much do we have captured? We only have $1 million out of the 5 million captured. How do we get the 4 million? Right? Again, you going back to some of the things earlier, you are willing to project what it is that you know and don't know, being grounded in the reality of your own capabilities, being grounded in the reality of what is possible, what you can achieve, and just looking at the facts and data of situations and being willing to not only run on those, but also convey those to other people to get them to believe in that this is what the reality is, and that your reality could potentially be changed. Because if you present these facts to somebody and they turn around and put them, say, hey, well, here's the piece that you're missing. Again, from a budgetary standpoint, we actually have this allocation over here, but this project is no longer moving forward. So we do have this money here. What would be the benefit in putting it over here into your particular idea or this particular tool? How many man hours or personnel hours does this tool save by having it a part of your team? Oh, it's a $10,000 investment to get a $20,000 return when it comes to hourly salary spend. Okay, then if we free up those hours, then what does it go to, right? So this is just looking at the reality. Like I said, whether it's a limitation, whether it's an opening, whatever it might be, being willing to have your reality changed, but functioning with reality instead of fantasy. Oh man, I wish that the government was this or that, or God, what if my boss was just so much better because of X, Y, Z, or um, you know, I wish that they would invest in my, growth of paying for my certifications and my education, right? Who cares? Within reality, you can still achieve. The question is, how do you do it, right? What can you do within the reality and the set of facts that you have and still get to wherever it is that you want to go? That is what we are talking about here. Okay, so let's run through these real quick again, right? So again, we are looking to be easy to work with. And how do we do that? You be calm in the storm. You be relentlessly resourceful. You be humble. You're actively curious. You assume good intentions. You take ownership. You're a reliable closer. You are altruistic. You're an active listener. You act like an owner and you are based in reality. If you like this content, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more content like this. We also are live on Instagram, Facebook, and X, which are linked down below as well. If you have any questions, comments, things that maybe you want to provide here to go into further detail, leave them in the comment below. I respond to every single comment on every single video all of the time. So do not hesitate. If you have feedback for my content, maybe things you want me to do better or different things that I can do, or even topic ideas, leave those in the comments below. Again, I will always do my best to provide the value to you because that is why I do this. End of story. Thank you again for joining me today. I appreciate you. And until next time.